The World MMA Awards voting is open now. And I wanted to make a video and walk through it with you, discuss it. And I think it'd just be fun to look at this because sometimes the nominees are not all what they seem to be. The MMA media, we know, is not trustworthy. I'm not a big fan of them. They're corporate media. They're legacy media. They're owned by larger entities. And they don't always put forth the kind of messaging that is true. So let's get into it. First off, we got the Fighting Spirit Award nominees. Gabriel Braga out of PFL, Jim Miller, Leon Edwards, Mark Coleman, and Thomas Powell. Fighting Spirit Award. So Gabriel Braga up first. His heart strength to overcome the loss of his father and his coach during his training camp. Jim Miller, the endurance, the only fighter to compete at 100, 200, and 300. Let me back up to Gabriel Braga. He came out and got a win in his fight after losing both his father and his coach just before that. I don't know if people really understand how difficult that is. You've experienced loss in your life, but then to have to focus so hard to get in a fight, that's tremendous. Leon Edwards is the next nominee. Composure, strength during disgusting mental antics by an opponent. Get the fuck out of here. You're going to compare that to Gabriel Braga or Mark Coleman? Mark Coleman saved his entire family from a fire. And this is what you're going to put on here? I can't think of something off the top of my head, but I know that there are other MMA fighters out there. LFA, Cage Warriors, Cage Fury, Bellator, PFL, anything. I don't care what it is that haven't overcome other stuff. Adrian Lee facing the loss of his sister. This is disgraceful. I truly think it is, because I know there's other fighters that have been through more. They're just putting him down here. Leon specifically, Jim Miller. It's pretty cool. It's a worthy acknowledgement. But he better not win. But Leon Edwards down here for facing disgusting mental antics by Colby Covington. Colby Covington runs his mouth. Who cares what somebody says? He's not going to your house and attacking your kids, spitting in your wife's face. Like, get out of here. He's not doing what Conor did to Khabib, disrespecting his family, his religion even. But even so, like, it's just words. People are going through real stuff. My pick, Gabriel Braga and Mark Coleman should share this one, because they've been through something that's truly terrible. On to MMA journalist. Aaron the Cuck Bronstetter, Ariel the Cuck Helwani, Carlos Contreras, Nolan King, and Oscar Willis. Easy pick for me. Nolan King is the least egregious with his politics. Listen, I get it. Sports has always been about politics. There's always been politics in sports. But these guys all write their articles in such a biased fashion. They use their positions to put themselves at the forefront of the news. I just don't appreciate some of the tweets that they put out. I like Oscar Willis. He's a better personality. Carlos Contreras, I really have no problem with. But Ariel Helwani and Aaron Bronstetter, really just some soy dudes, and I really disagree with. In terms of just their outlook on life. Do I hate them? Does Ariel put out interesting content sometimes here and there? Does Aaron Bronstetter have some decent opinions here and there? Yes, absolutely. But let's say Nolan King gets it here because I know that he is in the loop with the fighters, and I like what he puts out. I like his products. I like his writing. It's not so bad and egregious to me. That's my pick, Nolan King. Least offensive kind of guy out there. Least polarizing guy out there. That's what I want to see. MMA media source of the year. Absolutely not MMA fighting. I like the Mac Life and I like ESPN. But same kind of thing. What is ESPN doing here? Media source. Their articles stink. They're so casual in all of their takes. They do their top 10 MMA fighters and it's just John Jones, Anderson Silva, GSP, the same old thing, same old argument. Don't need to see it. Sure Dog, They've got a lot of guys out there doing good work. A less well-funded media outlet, and same thing with the Mac Life. That's a toss-up to me. But absolutely not the big legacy media outlets of MMA fighting and ESPN. Nominees for Best MMA Programming. How is it not the Dana White Contender Series? Morning Combat stinks. You got two dudes spouting off boomer takes on Morning Combat. Don't need to hear it. Anik and Florian. I don't dislike John Anik or Kenny Florian, but they're always just trying to suck up to the next fighter they need to get an interview with. Not a huge fan. Interesting takes there. They have great chemistry. It's entertaining at times. MMA Hour, obviously Ariel show, the biggest interviews in the business. But is it the best programming? Is it the most interesting thing? No. The UFC Embedded or Dana White's Contender Series are really my two picks here. Embedded, great videos, every pay-per-view. I honestly wish they would do more for fight nights and stuff. I really enjoy those videos. Embedded vlogs, great stuff. Alright, on to the next. Personality of the year. Bruce Buffer seems to always be on the list. Daniel Cormier's here. Chael Sonnen's here. Joe Rogan, for some reason, even though he's a commentator predominantly. And Nina Drama. I haven't looked at all the categories, but I really don't need Nina Drama on here. She has definitely made the biggest boom in the industry in the last year or two. For some reason. I'm not saying anything, but you can infer why she's here. Is it the hard work? Is it the entertainment? I don't find her that funny. If she wants to put out videos like that, cool. Nothing against it. I won't turn her away. She brings probably some kind of audience to the table. Joe Rogan, commentator. What does he really bring in terms of personality to the UFC? I don't know. Chael Sonnen absolutely should take the cake here every time. He is great on the desk when it comes to serious discussions of fights. But the promotion that he brings to MMA in general is huge. Bruce Buffer is the ring announcer. I'm not sure why he's the personality. Best promotion. Interesting to not see one championship here. If we're talking MMA fights, I understand their MMA is not their strong suit right now. But UFC takes the cake here, no doubt. KSW and Octagon have been making strides in the world, in the media world, the past couple of years, and I'm excited to see what they do next. LFA's got a good promotion, always got great production value, but the UFC should take the cake here. PFL's up here, but man, the PFL always just disappoints me at every turn, and I can never get enough of the UFC, truthfully speaking. They're always putting on great fights. Even when they let us down, there's always something fun and interesting to see, something on the card that's interesting to talk about. And so yes, the UFC I think takes it home again, but KSW in terms of the international appeal and the PFL and what they're doing, I don't trust the PFL, but what they're doing in the Middle East and Africa and trying to build up some kind of feeder system, that's really good and in the long run could pay off for them if they can do it right. I just don't like the regular season playoff style they have. So once again, UFC, like always, takes the cake there for me. Leading man. Dana White, Ed Soros, Graham Boylan, Martin Lewandowski, and Peter Murray. Peter Murray and Graham Boylan do interesting things, yes. Dana White, in terms of the promoter, there is no better promoter in the game. Even when he says stupid shit, he just has it in him to be a promoter. And if you took these guys out of their promotions, would it be the same? The only one that I would say that would fail, I wouldn't say fail, the UFC's too big to fail, but the one that would start to suffer is the UFC. Ring card girl of the year. Is this hottest ring girl of the year? Or is it who does the best job? Boys, what are we thinking here? Holly Barker has too much fake going on there. Honestly, for me, Brooklyn, Red De La Cruz, two really amazing, attractive women. Been doing it for a long time. Have it down to a T. Always great on camera. I won't really make a pick there because I don't need to. I can fantasize about all 5 of them if I want to, and I don't really need to pick a winner. Referee of the year: Herb Dean, Jason Herzog, Keith Peterson, Mark Goddard, Mark Smith. Herb Dean's always up there. Of course, he's the easy pick. But honestly, Herb's been kind of falling off the wagon here. Jason Herzog, underrated, always solid. Mark Smith also. He doesn't have quite the authority and boom that some of the other guys have. Keith Peterson doesn't really have that boom to me. He's a good referee, always has his eyes open, a little lower to the ground, shorter in stature. Maybe that's why. Mark Goddard, a little bit too big for his britches sometimes. My pick isn't even on the nominee or on the list to begin with, but Beltran always brings the authority to the table, and I love what he did to Makayev and putting him in his place last week at UFC 304. That would be my pick for best referee. MMA Jim, aka American Top Team, Lobo Jim, and the Fighting Nerds, and Extreme Couture. Extreme Couture is an easy pick here because of what they've done in the last year. Eric Nixick really coming into the fold here over the past couple years, putting out great fighters, so many of them too. But the Fighting Nerds, I think that's my sleeper pick for Gym of the Year. Carlos Prates, entertaining. Maurizio Huffy and Caio Baraglio, solid, smart fighter. Ruffy, very entertaining. Prates, very entertaining. And I'm blanking on his name right now. Gene Silva, dude, that dude comes to bang. So they got bangers in their gym and they've got smart guys in the gym. That is something to watch out for next year. Trainer of the Year. I don't have a strong opinion here. Don't really care. I'm not pleased with these nominees. But if we go to the coaches, Tim Welch with the Sean O'Malley win. If he gets another win, well, I guess it was last year's votes, right? So he had the Aljamain Sterling win and the Cheeto win. Very solid performance. Pahumba's always got solid fighters. Francisco Grasso and what he's done with Alexa Grasso and Diego Lopez, that couple of guys, that crew, I'm glad that he's in this and not just the same kind of Trevor Whitmans, Henry Hoof. I like Nixick, Grasso, Pahumba, perennial contender for this, Plinio Cruz, and Tim Welch. These 4 newcomers to this, I'm really well pleased with. Eric Nixick, he deserves this, no doubt. But in terms of what Plinio Cruz has done with Alex Pereira, that is pretty damn impressive. Tim Welch, very impressive what he's got with Sean O'Malley and that crew down there. A couple of bantamweights coming out of Arizona, very impressive. He's really coming into his own. He's maturing, I think, after his career as a fighter. But I gotta say, Eric Nixick probably takes the cake here. All solid contenders, though. Very interesting. Analyst of the Year. Saif Saud brings a lot of intelligence to the table, an interesting voice, coach. But not my winner, Paul Felder. Definitely a better TV presence and has better takes than Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping's my easy out on this one. Dean Thomas always has a fun personality. Dan Hardy, he always sounds really smart and he gives great breakdowns. You could give it to him because of how much he is involved with the PFL now. And I really like what he has to say most of the time. So I'll give it to Dan Hardy this time. Doesn't have great competition, although Dean Thomas is always entertaining, good on the mic, and gives good analysis as a coach-fighter combo. That's that would be my pick, Dan Hardy, for that one. Commentator of the year, glad to see Brendan in here. I think he's certainly underrated. Definitely not Laura Senko. I think of the female commentators that I have heard watching MMA, all the minor promotions, all the major promotions, she definitely brings something to the table in terms of what kind of background she has. Sean O'Connell, though, as a former fighter, not a traditionally trained broadcaster, he's really, really good. Although the PFL is not where I think he shines best. They just don't have the roster or the acumen and the TV production value to bolster him up the way he should be. John Gooden, great voice. John Anik, great voice of the UFC. But I got to give it to Brendan because of the strides that he's making. Really coming into that B team for the UFC. He makes the B team the A team because of his bravado and his skill in the broadcasting booth. So yeah, shout out to Brendan Fitzgerald. Upset of the year for fights. Dricus du Plessis versus Robert Whittaker. Instantly jumps off the table. Jason Jackson versus Amasov. I appreciate that one, but Amasov was coming off a long layoff, and Jason Jackson was steadily improving while Amasov was off for a couple of years. Not super unexpected. That Dricus du Plessis one was very unexpected. Neil Magny versus Mike Mallet. I would say that's more of comeback of the year because Mike Mallet was just putting him on it. He's the prospect coming up. Neil Magny's that top 10, top 15 kind of guy, always hanging around, but very boring. Just well-rounded, hangs in there. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Oven St. Preux. A good scrap, but not the upset of the year. I love the Dricus Robert Whittaker one because nobody was expecting Dricus to win. He just looked sloppy. Still looked sloppy in a win, but he just had it that night over Robert. But man, the upset of the year, you got to give it to Sean Strickland over Israel. Israel was on top of the world. Everybody thought he was going to come away with this one easy. Just beat Sean Strickland down in a late notice title fight. But Sean had everything and Izzy had nothing for him. Put Izzy down in the first round, just put a beating on him the rest of the fight. Absolutely no doubt upset of the year. Nobody thought he was going to win it. One of the biggest title upsets in the history of MMA. Shout out to Sean Strickland for that one. Forever cemented himself as a big popular fighter in the Americas. Very exciting. Comeback of the year for fighter. Brian Ortega versus Yair. Very impressive win. I gotta give his credit where it's due. I wasn't expecting Brian to come back and put anything on the table of any value, but he did it anyway. Elvis Brenner versus Guram. Guram was putting him away, man. Just putting an absolute beating on him. Cut him open, had him bleeding out of every possible direction. And Elvis Brenner just shut him down with one punch. Jose Aldo, in terms of his career, Tom Aspinall's career as well. Great comebacks from injury and a long layoff, sure. The Balata versus Ihor Peteria. That was interesting, but I got to give it to Elvis Brenner because Brian Ortega was highly ranked. Was he expected to win? No, but he was highly ranked. Always been highly ranked for the past couple years. The Elvis Brenner won just because I love Guram so much. And Elvis just put him away after sustaining such a beating. Just gritting his teeth and bearing down and coming forward through it all. Submission of the year. Volkov over Tai. Nope, because Tai has almost zero ground game. Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez. That is solid. I agree. The comeback aspect of it, the arm triangle, the domination of it. Damon Blackshear over Jose Johnson. That was really good. A rare twister in the UFC. Makachev over Poirier. Darce choke. What it meant in terms of the rest of the fight, what he had to do, because he was getting beat up on the feet, and Dustin was looking to come alive in that 4th and 5th round, but took him down, put him out, got him out of there. Diego Lopez over Gavin Tucker, that triangle armbar. Almost a flying triangle armbar. I mean, it was like fantastic. But I got to give it to Damon Blackshear. Just a dominant performance over Jose Johnson with that. Finish it with that twister. It's always fun to see a twister in the UFC. They don't come around all the time. Knockout of the year. Ooh, that Levy Carriel one was brutal, dude. How can you give it to anything but Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, though? The Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell, the one punch straight down the pipe, straight on the nose, just flattening him with a nose shot. I've never seen anything like it. The way Bryce Mitchell was out for 2 or 3 minutes. Man, it It was pretty scary. And I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again. Great knockout. Deserves to be on the list. Justin Gaethje over Dustin Poirier with that head kick. Woo! Man, what a moment. We thought it was going to be a great back and forth battle, and Justin just, second round, boom, came out there, took him out. Oliveira over Bernardo Sopage. Great knockout. Fantastic fight. Beautiful 1-2 flying knee. Although Sopage had his hands down, I gotta give it to Max Holloway because of the way he just stepped forward, pointed to the ground, and came for Justin's head. He put his neck on the line to put out one of the best knockouts you'll ever see. Arguably the best knockout of all time on the biggest stage. People were arguing, is it Leon's head kick over Usman or Max Holloway? The Leon knockout came at such a perfect time. It was such a great moment. Had me dropped my jaw to the floor. But the Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, I've never screamed louder in my life. I've never been so excited, so pumped up. I couldn't focus for the rest of the card because of what Max Holloway did. Pointed to the ground, swinging shots against a power puncher like Gaethje. With no time on the clock, he put him face down, ass up. Need I say more? Fight of the year. Clay Collard versus Shane Burgos was a fun scrap, but it was just a back and forth battle on the feet. Boxing. Not a super overall MMA fight. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit is definitely an underrated one, but definitely just a big name, big pick kind of thing. Popularity, choice. Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, same kind of thing. It was really a fairly dominating performance from Max. Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner was a really good fight. But man, the scrap that Alejandro Pantoja and Brandon Moreno put on, the back and forth, the blood and guts, the beatdowns they both sustained, the knockdowns they were giving each other, coming forward, slinging it, putting it all on the line for the title. Pantoja was just, he would not be denied, man. He came after Brandon Moreno. That was a fight of the century type of performance by both of them, and in the title fight, elevated that one. I gotta go with Alejandro Pantoja, Brandon Moreno for fight of the year. One of those all-time flyweight bangers. International fighter of the year. Chichiro Suzuki, Dricus du Plessis, Ilia Topuria, Jack Della Maddalena, and Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili, for a women's MMA fighter, definitely impressed me this year. She's just coming into her own, man. Always getting better. But how can you not look at Ilia Topuria, Dricus du Plessis? Although Jack Della Maddalena had some great performances and really rose up the rankings, I would love to give it to him because he's just so entertaining. Dricus and Ilia, that's a toss-up for me, man. Great international fighters coming up through the UFC, putting on dominant performances. I'll probably give it to Ilia because he just has it all, man. He's got the power, the ability, the technique. And he's got the mental aptitude for it too, man. He's got a great, fun personality. Give it to Ilia for doing what he did against Volkanovski, one of the best fighters in the UFC. Stringing together a couple of wins. Very solid. Breakthrough fighter of the year. Ian Gary, man. Absolutely not. Not even going to speak about him. Ian the Cuck Gary. Get the fuck out of here. Breakthrough fighter of the year. Anatoly Malikin. I like that one. I wish I could give it to him for breaking in, winning 3 titles and 1 championship. That's a big deal. Even if he's not beating the best guys in the world, that's still a huge deal. Tom Aspinall. If you knew about Tom Aspinall 2 years ago, you knew this guy was coming for the belt. You knew this guy was coming to the top. Benoit Saint-Denis and Diego Lopez are the 2 that really broke in, made a name for themselves with their wins. Benoit over Matt Frevola in his competitive fight against Dustin Poirier. And Diego Lopez just tearing through motherfuckers. I mean, god damn. What he did in that debut against Mubsar, like, opened everybody's eyes. This guy is dangerous. This guy's a finisher. He comes for your head. He is a marauder like we have never seen before, except for the likes of Charles Oliveira. Finishing everybody, going for everybody. showing up on late notice, taking 3 or 4 opponents again, and then finally landing on Dan Ige. I mean, this guy has it all. He fights all the time, and he is who you want to see fight next in a number 1 contenders fight. Diego Lopez is coming for everybody's head. Win or lose, die by the sword, live by the sword. That is Diego Lopez. Female Fighter of the Year. Kayla Harrison fought 1 time. Raquel Pennington in a boring title fight. Absolutely not. Liz Carmouche, strong, solid contender for this every time. Larissa Pacheco, which she did. Could care less, truthfully. PFL women's. She's dominant. She's got power in her hands. Looks like a man. Fights like a man. Good for her, whatever. But it's easily Zhang Weili with her title defenses. Always comes to bang. Entertaining. Not one of the average women's fighters. She really is a killer in there. That's Zhang Weili. She deserves that one, no doubt. And finally, the men's MMA Fighter of the Year. Renan Ferreira. Absolutely not. Don't care what you did in the PFL. Good for you, buddy. Could care less. Bellator versus PFL winner over Ryan Bader. Good for you, dude. Don't care. Islam Makhachev, though. Whew. What he has done, beating Volk, and then coming out and beating Dustin. Beating Volk twice, mind you. Dricus. Close win over Sean. And a win to determine the belt. I can't quite give it to him. 1 fight. Pantoja. Barely scraped by Usyk. I don't even think he won. In a boring fight over Royval. And that banger against Moreno to win the belt. 3 defenses. You gotta respect it. You gotta acknowledge it. But my Fighter of the Year, just because of what he has done for the company of the UFC, what he has done in terms of saving MMA in general, this guy's come onto the scene and shut everybody down. In just a few years, this guy has risen from a one-dimensional kickboxer to arguably one of the best fighters fighting today. He could really cement himself as one of the greatest of all time as a one-dimensional fighter. He's putting his skills over everybody else's. What more is there to say? What kind of dominance is that? Fighting Yuri, fighting Jamal, both on short notice. Winning the belt over Yuri in their first fight. Alex Pereira is your MMA Fighter of the Year. No doubt. Renan Ferreira is only here as a popularity pick to bolster the PFL. Maybe the PFL's paying the World MMA Awards. I don't know. But Alex Pereira, coming in on late notice, always showing up, always giving it his best, always giving it his all. 3 big wins. This guy is doing what nobody thought he would do, proving all the doubters wrong. MMA Fighter of the Year, Alex Pereira.